This is the Lean Builders Hoots on the Ground podcast with absolutely, positively no bullshido. Join us as we dig into exactly what lean construction is and how we can use these concepts and strategies in the field. This podcast will be different as we journey to job sites and mine the minds of lean builders, all in effort to pass forward building knowledge from those who have put their time in to learn a better way. Because that's just what lean builders do.
What's up, y'all? Adam Hoots here, the lean builder, Hoots on the ground with no bullshido. And I warned y'all to buckle up this year because I am bringing on my lean idols this year, really introducing you to some really amazing people in the lean construction world. And today is especially beautiful. We've got the one and only old dog, Jeff Reilly himself. My brother, Jeff, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me. Honored to be here.
Yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way, man. You are absolutely one of my lean idols. You have just jump-started this old dog group like no other, man. I'm so grateful for you. And I'm excited to introduce the Lean Builder Nation to exactly who Jeff Reilly is today. So, you know how I roll, man. Like, you already know the first question. I'm not even going to ask it, man. Tell us about yourself, my brother.
All right. So, first and foremost, I'm a father to three beautiful children who age me fast and keep me young at the same time. Husband to a wonderful wife who somehow manages the majority of the logistics for the family during the week. While I'm at work, I have a bit of a commute here. So, most of the load falls on her. I don't know how she does it. I have two nieces, two nephews, three sisters. My parents are my best friends. I'm very close with my wife's family. Actually, my in-laws moved in next door last year, so that's been great. My brother and sister-in-law live about a mile away. We spend a lot of time together. You met my brother-in-law this week on his first old dog call, which is a good lean story in and of itself. We can get into a bit later, but
Dr.
yeah.
Oriola, right? That's him?
Yeah. Mr. Oriole. Yeah. So I grew up playing sports, always loved the team camaraderie and playing on those teams, having that environment. And I've had a hunger to get it back since then, since, the good old days. And I feel that I'm closer and closer to achieving that feeling with the team that I'm building as they build me. So I take a lot of pride in that and trying to regain that team camaraderie. I love creating things. I take pride in being a part of something bigger than myself. Everyone in this industry, I think, to a person, likes driving by that project that they were a part of and pointing it out to whoever's in the car with them and just saying, "Hey, I helped build that thing there." Yeah, even if it's the 50th time and the response is an eye roll, you really just can't duplicate that feeling. So, yeah, that's
Amen.
me.
No doubt. So I hear you saying, okay, family is important, right? You're a builder of relationships, community, of construction projects, a creator. Yeah, I love it. I guess, how did all that happen?
Yeah, so a little bit about my family. My dad's side, union side of the family. My grandfather was the president of the teachers union in Boston. Actually went to jail for putting the teachers on strike a while back, so that was his claim to fame. And then my ancestors on my father's side were stonemasons that actually built the gates to the Fenway, not Fenway Park, the Fenway, which is a section of Boston where Fenway Park actually is. And then my mother's side, the tradesman side, my grandfather on that side was an electrician. He worked for the the subway system in Boston. He worked at the Quincy shipyard, which is right up the street from where I grew up. That was the home of the biggest crane in the world for most of my childhood until they took it down and sent it overseas. But that was its claim to fame. The thing was enormous. And he actually had a heart attack on the job when I was a young kid. So, even though I was so little when he went, he's still a big part of my life, I feel, in the way that my mother tells the stories about him and how he worked, and even my father who worked for him. So I feel like that culminated, all those experiences that have happened by my family have culminated in me kind of striving to be the person that I am now and putting myself into a leadership role and trying to influence others, and specifically in the construction industry. You know, I got the union leadership on one side along with some tradesmen, and then I have the tradesmen and the kind of gritty side on the other side of my family. And I think I just kind of, that's what's kind of shaped me and pushed me to be where I'm at today through the guidance of my parents. Like I mentioned, they're my best friends, and they, you know, I always go back to them, and I feel like I get a new nugget of wisdom even at my age now. I get a new nugget like weekly from them that helps me along my path here. So very fortunate for the family life that I have.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I think it's, at least from my perspective, a rarity in construction. For me, I almost hear you like prideful in a way, like you're like boasting about, hey, all of my family, both sides of my family, one's union, one's not. It like, and it's culminating in you. I love the closeness, the togetherness. I'm just kind of fascinated with how that happened, or as you're growing up, like usually construction means, hey, somebody's on the road, somebody's working till 7, 8 o'clock most nights, still getting things done, because that's just the way it's always been, right? So can you take, like, how does all of that collide into being able to nurture the family? Or what are your memories growing up? Was it that hard 60, 70, 80 hour work weeks? Or what do you remember from those who taught you the building business?
Yeah. So I'd say most of that and kind of coupling the work ethic with the family comes from stories of my grandfather, the electrician, who would work the night shift, and then he would come to my parents' house when I was little for coffee and breakfast. And he would finish his shift and then show up at our house. And that was the best part of his day. And it was that kind of instilled in me that, you know, work your ass off and then get home and be present with your family, right? That's the most important thing. And like I said at the top, the most important job that I have is a father. And I didn't learn that, you know, through my own experience. That was instilled in me by my parents. It was very evident that their most important job was being parents first. So, as far as, you know, I don't have the memories of dad wasn't there, mom wasn't there. I always remember them being there more often than not. So, you know, I've had a couple of conversations with my father, and this is probably why I don't remember it that way. When I'm getting into my career, he's, hey, put your head down and work your ass off for the next few years because you don't have kids. So get after it. And then I started having kids, and he goes, you know what? He's like, your kids are not going to remember when they're 40 years old. They're not going to remember that you missed a T-ball game. But
Mm.
when they're 40 years old, they're going to remember that you missed the varsity baseball game. So bust your ass for a few more years here while, you know, they're little. Be present when you're home. And then if everything works out, maybe you can pump the brakes a little bit when they're young adults and they're teenagers and they get to that age. And you can be a little bit more strategic with your time and making sure that you're there for the milestone events for your kids. So more than memories, personal memories, it's been the passed on wisdom, I would say, that has kind of shaped me and where I'm at.
Yeah, and a quick nugget from L.R. Whedon on wisdom, right? Like that man has taught me knowledge is not power, right? Wisdom is power. Knowledge, it gets you a place, but wisdom is knowledge and action. And so shout out to LR for that one. To you for, I guess, sharing that wisdom. I think it's really landing with me personally. As my daughters are now, almost 19, one's in college, one just left for work. Shared a cup of coffee with her this morning as she's going in on a Saturday like you, my brother.
Yep.
But and my son's just starting JV baseball. So, and I'm in a position where I've worked pretty hard over the last 20 plus years. And I'm not saying, don't worry, job teammates, I'm not mailing it in by any means, right? I'm still going to put the time in, but I am going to be at those JV baseball games. So I appreciate that reminder there. And, that was actually a topic on our real field talk this week with the old dogs. And if you haven't noticed, like all the wonderful dogs down there on the bottom, dogs on the hats, like we're dogs, right? It's the old dogs. And shout out to you again, creating the logo, right? Like it was very apparent when this one on the bottom of the screen came out because it does a couple of things. Why don't I just, can you just describe the logo that you created based on some concepts?
Yeah. So, first of all, I just want to pay homage to Buddy because there was a short overlap for me in the old dogs when Buddy was still around. And I think that this logo is kind of symbolic of what we're trying to do here, right? So, Buddy passes away, unfortunately, and he imparted a lot of wisdom that he passed down. And ultimately, that's the goal that we're trying to do here as old dogs. We're trying to pass down wisdom and keep it going and close that knowledge gap from the young folks coming in, from the guys that are leaving. You know, we talk all the time about 701, 7 out, 1 in to the construction industry. So where's all that knowledge going? So I think this is a good representation. You guys had a logo, you know, you had the old dog lean thesaurus with the dog on there. And I was looking at that and I was like, you know, that thing's great. Yeah, I got mine over here somewhere. But I was like, that's great. This is awesome. And a couple things. I want the old dogs to be marketable, right? I want us to be, that's that logo. I know that logo. That's the old dogs. But I also want to make sure that we're hanging on to our roots. And this kind of represents, all right, Buddy's old dog from the old lean thesaurus. All right, here's the new old dog, right? Buddy passed it on to us. Now let's shape it. Let's mold it and let's make it ours and let's continue to grow it. And then, you know, this logo might change in another 10 years if we got some new old dogs and they want to say, hey, you know, let's make a couple of adjustments here. And we're going to say, keep it a golden lab, keep the glasses, keep the Buddy logo, and then you're good.
Yeah, yeah. And shout out to Buddy Brumley, right? The OG lean builder, right? The OG old dog, my co-author for the old dog lean thesaurus. And the sunglasses are a nice touch as well, right? Because we had an old dog that ran with us quite a bit, Mondo 3K. And that man was always sporting sunglasses. It doesn't matter if it was inside, outside, nighttime, daytime. And he also passed away in a car accident about a year ago as well. Him and Buddy within a couple months. So that was a big impact. And so the logo means a lot to me, man. And it's gone through iterations. You can see our hats. Thank you for the hat as well. It just, yeah, it's special. We've got plans, we've got major plans, and I'm super excited for you to be a part of it. Like such an integral part of it, not just, hey, a piece, but like one of the driving forces. So I do appreciate that, Dr. Reilly. I can't wait for all of us to be doctors here in the next year and a half or so, because it's going to be a beautiful thing. But I want to get back to where we were heading. I kept looking at the old dogs and I know your connection there. I wanted to make that known. So you're an old dog. You clearly, family is important. And again, the dog is like, that just connects that family a bit better. And we're talking about in the Real Field Talks this week, like, how do we balance this work life balance thing? Because as we grew up, right, we spent the first 10, 15, 20 years of our careers, like you're putting in 40, 50, 60 hours. Maybe you don't have kids. Maybe they're super young. They won't remember things. And not saying that you never want to be there, right? But maybe priorities kind of shift over time. And so how do you balance that new generation as they're coming in saying, Jeff, I ain't doing that. I'm not working those crazy hours. But yet at some level, it takes 10,000 hours to master something that's very proven in academia and science as well. And so like, how do you balance the good to great, the putting your hours, putting your true time in to really perfect something? What do you tell kids these days?
Yeah. So I've been lucky enough to be in a position where I've interviewed a lot of young folks trying to hire. And to be quite frank, I go through a lot because I'm looking for something specific. And what I really want them to understand is that they're coming into a team, right? And that's where the accountability comes in, right? So if I have somebody that, if they mention work-life balance in the interview, if they bring that up, then that's a red flag for me. Yeah, it's just
fascinating. Why?
I just don't, it's just a turn off for me. I don't think that you should
Interesting.
go in with that type of attitude. It's not the
Okay.
attitude I had. Maybe it's just my bias. I was kind of like, hey, do I have opportunity here? What's
Yeah.
my ceiling? What's my ceiling in the next 5 years? That was my question. What's going to stop me
Yeah.
from getting there?
Yeah,
Right. So
not what's gonna limit me from getting that. Not yeah, what's the minimum I can do to be successful in this organization? Is that kinda how you hear that question?
yeah, what can I still play in my golf league on Thursday? That's what I hear when they ask that.
Okay.
That's a I shot a 96 last week because it was my 5th time out this year. I'd really get out anymore. So you find me a kid that comes in and he's got a 5 handicap, and I'm sorry, pal. I just don't want you on my team. You have too much time to golf. I do want to golf with you and see that, but you
Yeah.
know,
Well, so what are some of these other red flags? I like it. I mean, I do. I'm not criticizing. Yeah.
it's not really so much the red flags, it's the overall attitude. I want to make sure that they understand when they come to a team that there's going to be an ebb and flow to the job, right? There's going to be times where you got to dig in and you just got to be here and make sure that your work's done. I'm never going to clock watch. I'm not going to do it. I don't care if you work 6 hours or 12 hours. But if a 12-hour guy is not getting his job done, I'm going to say something to him. And if a 6-hour a day guy is getting his job done, I'm not going to say anything to him because he's getting his job done. That's at the end of the day, a well-organized individual can get his work done in 6 hours, and somebody that's just a firefighter running around with his hair on fire he's going to be there for 12 hours and he's going to feel like he got nowhere. So that's the
Yeah.
type of guy I'm looking for, right?
But then there's something about like just getting to a job site at 6 o'clock in the morning, being able to be there when people get there, being able to see, feel, touch, hear the building. We've talked
Oh yeah.
late hours about that. But there's something about just being in the space. And so you're right. I can get 10 hours of work done in a 6 hour shift. If nobody talks to me, everybody's out of my way, and I'm able to go walk the building without being stopped. That isn't a reality, right? I mean, people need things, especially the more elevated you become in a leadership position, or should I say, the lower you become in a leadership position. I think, and those of you that serve will completely understand that comment. There's a matter of, hey, you might be able to get your job done in 6 hours, but that's the technical side of things. And surprise, construction is a socio-technical business, again, documented by academia. And so, can you really get your socio-technical job done in 6 hours, Jeff?
Good question. Probably not. Probably not. You want to be there. Again, it's more of the interaction. We've had a couple of discussions about this with Lean. It's not a tool set, it's a mindset. And Kaizen is an environment that you create. It's not a continuous improvement, right? So that environment that you're making probably takes more than 6 hours a day. You probably got to be there when your first crews arrive and when your first crews leave. And those guys work in an 8-hour shift. So bare minimum, you want to be there for the front end and the tail end of that. So you're making sure that environment stays the same. Now, a good leader instills that in his team. So he might still be able to leave at 6 after 6 hours because now his assistant supers or, his number 2, whatever it is, his APMs, his PM, whatever it is, he's instilled that kind of environment. I know you don't like that word culture, but the environment that harbors all of the creation and the goodwill and all the things that make the worker want to come back to your job the next day.
Yeah. Yeah, you said the word. Like, if you're working 6 hours, well, let me start with this. The culture of a project, and yes, I hate the word culture, and thank you for doing that. But you and I are on that same page. Like, I know culture is more than ping pong and beer to you, especially with the family factor that you have. It's interesting. I'd like to talk maybe how that plugs into that conversation. Maybe you could draw us back there. But the culture of a project is determined by the worst behavior a leader's willing to accept. And if the leader's not on the project, and there's leaders at all levels, right? And so, and if a leader's not there, then they're accepting behaviors that they don't even know is going on. And so when you talk about the environment, and you start bringing in the word Kaizen, the no-bullshido here, right? So how would you describe the word Kaizen, I guess?
So I think we're doing Kaizen a disservice by calling it continuous improvement. Right. That's an
Okay.
easy word to throw out. And that's what I guess the mainstream definition of Kaizen. But if you really want to get down into the nitty gritty of it, it's making sure that there's change with purpose and there's continuous ways to make change and you're fostering an environment for change. All of those things, excuse me,
Very good.
all of those things are important to make sure that, and Kaizen forever, the Bob Emiliani, it's
Yeah.
continuous is continuous, right? It's not just, hey, end of the week, we made 6 improvements this week. Phew, we can just, rest on our laurels here and cruise to the end of the next milestone. No, it's got to be continuous. And it's important for the leaders on any job to remind everybody of that. And sometimes you might sound like a pain in the ass because you've gotten to this point where things are running smooth and things are great and everybody's happy and the site is clean and it's like, all right, what's next? What do you mean what's next? Well, what I mean is we're not perfect. We never will be. So let's get there. How do we get there? What's next?
That's like a curse in my life for whatever that's worth. Like that, I run around with that mentality always. And sometimes my wife looks at me and says, "Can't you just be, just be Hoots?" And that's a really good reminder. But another thing that kind of drives me crazy is this respect for people comment and culture. And my time in Japan really changed my perspective on this whole respect for people. And turn my mind upside down into respect for the environment. And so I love how you're connecting the Kaizen not just to, continuous improvement, but it's change with purpose, like positive purpose and intention. And that takes observing and recognizing the environments that people are working in. And so I've really started to latch on to this respecting the environment and not like a tree hugger, global warming, not like that kind of thing, but like more, I'm going to set the environment up that I'm working in so that future Hoots is going to be super happy. And this actually comes from back in my college days, right? Like I would go out and get super hammered and then I would put like a Gatorade and Advil next to my bed. And so I was thinking about future Hoots, right? So I created an environment that respected myself in the morning. And so when you're talking about Kaizen, and for me, it comes down to like, how can we increase flow in the field? And we do that through going out, observing, orienting the environment such that maximum production can happen from our workers in the field. And so how do you like I guess what resonated there and or how do you establish environments like that?
Yeah, so much like that, setting up the next guy. I think it's throwing WD-40 on those handoffs between your trades, right? It's getting that transition of a space from one trade to the next. How do we do that effectively? And start with broom swept. Just start with that. It's broom swept and ready for you, right? No matter which trade you're going to next, they want a clean space to come into. So I think that's the minimal level of respect to the next guy is to give it to him clean. And then you can kind of get into the Kaizen part of that. It's, hey, can you leave the hi-hat off in those 2 sections so I can do my thing instead of having me remove it and put it back or me remove it and probably damage it? So all of those things, I think that's a really specific spot that we can dive into on the job for Kaizen. And that's something that we try to hone in on. Hey, what is that
Yeah.
handoff? What does that look like? Let's have that conversation and let's make that handoff better. What did it look like last week when you got it? All right. How do you want it a little bit better this week? Right. So those are important conversations. And I think that, here we split up the building into geographical zones and everybody on my team has a zone. And it's almost like a competition to keep your area the cleanest, right? It's the cleanest, it's the safest. And you walk around and you just make sure, hey, these guys are slipping over here. So it's a quick text to the foreman. It's a quick text to, the laborers. It's a little bit of communication to fine tune your space and make sure that it looks respectable and clean. And all right, now it's clean. How do I make it a little bit better? Right? What's the next step there? I could use a little clean sweep just staged over here for my guys. I could use an extra barrel over here to make it easier for them to get it cleaned up. All those things. Those are the morning walks that you and I talk about. Listen to the building, figure it out, find those little spots, those little nuggets that can make your job a little bit better that day.
Yeah, I love it. I really like the concept of WD-40, and I've got this kind of vision of a WD-40 can and like somebody pushing the button and out of it's coming like room swept, everything on wheels, like trash cans empty. I don't know, like all these sayings coming out of a WD-40 can for the handover. And you're talking about conditions of satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
How are we going to learn it? And you might not even know what that means going in, but after the second, third, fourth, fifth handoff, it's, oh, now I know exactly what those conditions of satisfaction are because I've started my work. You're pulling me with you, and we're eliminating those non-value add activities. And you mentioned to me right before we came on, you had just went back through Nicholas Modig's book called This is Flow. I'm sorry, that's not the
This
name.
is
What was that?
lean.
Oh yeah, that's right. This is lean. I did have Nicholas on, also one of my lean idols, and I asked him, hey, if you could change, or what's one word that bothers you? And it's the word in his book. This is lean. He doesn't like the word lean. So we have officially changed that name to Flow. This is Flow. And so I hear you connecting these dots of value add. Take us down. This is lean. This is Flow. Like, where are you at in this lean thing?
I think there's a lot of frustration along the way with implementation and buy-in that we talk about. I mean, how many old dog talks have we had about that specific subject, right? I have a similar conversation, if not the exact same one, with other supers around the country within my company. And we're like, man, just banging our head against the wall on 5S or the last planner system, or what's that Kanban you got going on? How do you make that work? And I think the concentration is too much on the tools, and they're all great. I love using the tools. I love implementing them. And I think I said to you before, if you step away from the job site, and you want to talk about lean construction, that's like a scientist without a lab. You need to use these tools and try to break them and figure out what works and what doesn't. And by the way, that tool is going to work one way on this job. It's going to work completely differently on the next job when you have a different group of people. So back to the basics of This is Lean by Modig is lean is a mindset, not a tool set. And you just have to get to the basics. Like you just talked about conditions of satisfaction, right? We have in the lean world, we have all these definitions. We got a old dog lean thesaurus, right? We got all these words we call things, right? It's a mindset. We're just labeling things that are intuitive on the way that people think. We're just kind of trying to get everybody on the same page, right? And get just verbalize those thoughts so that we can get on the same page. So long story short, I think that more of those interpersonal relationships, like checking in on the guy and having him understand that you just want him to be better and more efficient. And here's a couple of tools to help you, but ultimately, I don't really care how you get there. I just want to make sure that you're on the right journey, on the right path, and I'm here to help. That's it.
Yeah,
So
these tools are ways to serve, right? And anybody who, I'm probably going to make some enemies with this comment, but anybody who gravitates to one tool and sells one tool, and you know who I'm talking about, we've got to be careful there because there is no one tool. There is no one bullet that's going to fix, or one pill that's going to fix this broken system, right? Like it is, you know what? I take that back. There is one tool. It's being a human, right? Like going to the job, being a human. If we could sell one tool in flow construction, lean construction, It's how to be a human and go to the job, recognize other humans that are there that are struggling specifically, and help them with their work, help them remove those roadblocks. These people, gosh, our workers are suffering every single day in a system that they cannot change. It's not fair. It's not okay. The people who are suffering in this industry, they're not the ones that have the ability to change a system. Those who have the ability to change it are not suffering the way they need to be until they get that one tool of being a human and they go out to the job site and they recognize suffrage. And that might have been a little bit strong, but you've got me really passionate because, anybody that steps out of construction for too long and doesn't have a laboratory forgets. And I'm living proof of that, right? I took 3 years and did the consulting thing, left the industry and worked on it, not in it, and then came back to work in it as well. And man, it is, you've got to have a laboratory to prove over and over that this works. And every laboratory you set up, you've got to start at a different place based on there's people there. So
The
she's got
golden
me.
rule.
Yeah, well,
And it can be, yeah, it can just, everything it can be boiled down to that golden rule. Just treat other people the way you want to be treated. Unless you're into some weird stuff, that's going to be, give me a clean place to eat
Well,
and use the bathroom. That's,
get out of the
that's,
sun. Yeah.
yeah, set me up for success.
The platinum rule, right? So just in case you are into some weird stuff, there's the platinum rule, and it says treat others the way that they want to be treated. Okay. So yeah. So
That's more
maybe if you,
inclusive.
yeah. Okay. Thank you. I think I'm not sure anymore. I want to talk a little bit about, you just got me fired up with the state of the industry, but let's talk about the state of the industry, where we are, right? I hear you saying when I'm looking for people to hire, I'm thinking, what's his name? Patrick Lencioni. I'm thinking hungry, humble, smart. I'm thinking people that want to be there doing their thing. What is the reality in the construction industry that Jeff Reilly sees?
That loss of talent and knowledge is very evident. And going back to why we're doing what we're doing here, mentors don't know that they're mentors, right? So these guys that are the crusty old foreman who's yelling at a kid to go get something on the other side of the job and get back here as soon as possible. That's the wrong thing. Get back here. He's having a bad day just yelling at a kid, but that kid's learning. He's learning what the right thing. He's never going to get the wrong piece of equipment again, So I think that more self-awareness of the generation that's on its way out, more self-awareness of the role that they play, the critical role that they play over the next decade plus here of teaching and mentoring and being more deliberate with those lessons. I think it can't be overstated how important that is right now. I mean, I look at the group that we have with the old dogs, and I mean, I can't wait to call in and just be a sponge. I mean, I'm at probably the lower end of the age range on that call. So I'm just trying to funnel it all in and then do the touch pass to the guys on my site. This is what I learned today. And I typically do my Friday meetings, and I try to instill some wisdom, whether it be from the old dogs or one of these great books that I'm reading at the time. So the state of the industry is we're in a dire situation because we got all this technology coming in, and we're going to be heavily reliant upon that technology in 10 years. And there's going to be mistakes made because now I'm getting ahead of myself with AI and all of that. But I would say that we need that personal interaction. People are going to run construction. I don't see AI taking that over. So we need to make sure that we're getting that information. And hopefully this old dog group is kind of on the forefront of making that happen. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but on the industry, but that's what keeps me up at night about the industry, I would say.
Well, here's what just rang in my head when you spoke, and I wrote it word for word. Mentors don't know their mentors. Like it actually over the last couple of years, I personally have only realized that wow, people are looking at me as an example, and that's
Yeah,
not
guilty.
always a good thing. What's that?
I said guilty.
Yeah, well, amen. Thank you, but that's not always a good thing, right? I look right back at you from a family perspective, and I want to learn, and I want to do. I earn for that. I think like we're all mentors in different ways. Another way to put it is, hey, at all times we are conditioning the people around us, and we're either conditioning them to learn, we're conditioning them to pass a test, maybe we're conditioning them to think, but maybe we're conditioning them to be more self-aware. Like you use those words as well. And I think in our industry, we are not very self-aware. We're not very human aware. This again, it's a socio-technical business. The AI, sure, it'll go after that technical side, but there's still this sociology thing, this social component that isn't going away. And you've got the self-awareness plays in so deep to that socio side of things that, and it's an art, right? Like we're starting to break down left brain, right brain thinking, right? Science versus art, engineering versus architecture, right? It's aesthetics kind of flow, ebbs and flow, as you called it earlier. And so I think just realizing that we are constantly conditioning folks and people are learning from you. You might not think of yourself as a mentor, but pause and look around. There are people who are looking up to you. With that comes a lot of responsibility to be the change that you seek.
Yeah, so that's kind of my daily thing, and I try to learn from my experiences every day and make sure that I don't turn into that non-self-aware leader. I not just leading on a job, but leading on setting an example of how to do that. Setting an example for the guys working under me. We're lucky enough to we've had a few interns come through this job and they've come back because they like the way we're doing things. And that I take a lot of pride in that, setting up that environment again where not only is it a fun place to be, but they are learning. They're figuring out what not to do sometimes, right? Don't be
Yeah.
afraid of that either, right? Yeah, I think about that and I just try to make sure that I pause and reflect like we talk about. I try to do that now. I get a long commute home. Oftentimes it's upwards of 2 hours on the way home and I use that effectively, I think. So I pause and I reflect back on my day, my week, my interactions, and I come up with a little mental game plan on the conversations I'm going to have tomorrow with,
Mm.
the people I work with, for, and above, all of that. Or I should get rid of that above, just with,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I hear you saying I'm gonna set future Jeff up with some Advil and a Gatorade tomorrow, so those conversations flow a little easier.
Some
Yeah,
Pedialyte, some
yeah,
Pedialyte.
there you go. Amen. Have you ever had a moment where you've been too self-aware before?
I get in my own head a lot, for sure. Just in the past few weeks, even, one of the kids will rustle in the night and I'll get up. It'll be 1 in the morning. And all of a sudden, I'm staring at the ceiling until I go to work. And I'm just thinking and thinking. And then later that day on the drive home, I'm like, man, I really overthought my day today when I had 6 hours in the morning to think about it. And I really
Mm,
overthought that. None of that was a big deal. None of that really took that much brain power. So, yeah, I think that there's something to that. Keep it simple, silly. Oftentimes I forget about that and I end up just overthinking it. So, yeah, I get too far in my head. Self aware, maybe that's hand in hand with that, but too far in my head for sure.
yeah. Yeah, I find myself sometimes like I'll be in an office and there's maybe somebody a few desks over, and before they can sneeze, I say, "Bless you." And then they sneeze, and people are like, and I don't know what it I do know what it is. I do know where it comes from, but we're not gonna go there today.
That's a sixth sense.
Yeah, paying attention. I mean, it comes from years of watching my dad come home, right? And man, he's drinking today, and it's, oh, is he going to be in a good mood or a bad mood? And you like pick up on these little senses, and it's, oh, I can ask him for some Jordans today, or oh shit, I'm going to go play with my buddy at the park today, right? I'm going to get out of here, go for a
Yeah.
ride. So, and you could tell by the way the door opens, closed, shoes got taken off, and yeah, a painful detriment type of skill set, I would say. I want to kind of reset things here real fast because we're going down 900 roads. We've talked about a lot of different things. You've got a lot of wisdom in that head. I'm curious, just looking at the background behind you, can you kind of give me a rundown of the boards that you got going on? You got Ali standing over. Is that Frazier? Is that Smoking
Sonny
Joe?
Liston.
Sonny
Sonny
Liston.
Liston.
Okay.
Yeah.
So take me through the backdrop here.
All right. So I have a phrase up here that says, what is good for me, crossed out. What's good for my company, crossed out. What's good for the job. And for better or worse, I have guys say something to me all the time about that, whether it's in jest or not, but it gets them thinking all the time. That actually came from our buddy Dan Fauché. I heard him say that once and I was like, that clicked. I'm going to put that up on the board. And it's got a
Love
lot of
me some
interaction.
Dan. What a
Yeah. So
great
that's,
human being he is, huh?
he certainly is. He's actually the one that introduced you and I.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, officially, I should say, we took the CM Lean course together, but we didn't really interact other than being in that class with Colin Milberg. So
Dr. Milberg. Yes, sir. Another good human. Wow.
yeah,
Yes.
yep.
Mm.
So that's that. I got HHF here. I put it up there, and it's always in my notebook, my field book. It's always the first three letters that go on every single page at the beginning of every day, and it stands for Humble, Hungry, Focus, which is a riff off of Patrick Lencioni's Humble, Hungry, Smart. I just found it a little counterintuitive to call yourself smart after you call yourself humble. So, and I like to be a little bit more
Like
focused.
that. Like that.
So I thought focus was more pertinent to me. So I ripped and deployed that and, made it my own. And then Sonny Liston or Muhammad Ali standing over Sonny Liston, my first boss in the industry, had this up in his office, much bigger. He had a couple more bucks than I do. Had this huge canvas of that up in his office. And I would come in, he would call me into his office for one thing or the other. And at the beginning of my employment there, he said, some days you're Muhammad Ali, some days you're Sonny Liston, but it's all how you handle being Muhammad Ali or being Sonny Liston. Are you going to handle victory with grace? Are you going to get up off the mat? So that lesson, it's one of the first lessons that I got in the industry. I was straight out of school and I'll never forget it. And then my wife ended up buying that for me a few years back, probably 6-7 years ago when I left that company and came to this one. So I'll bring it with me everywhere and put it in every single office I ever work in.
That's powerful. Yeah. What are you today?
What am I today?
Yeah. Are you Sonny Liston or Muhammad Ali?
The day is young, my friend. We'll see. I got another 6-7 hours here, but I would say I'm probably coming out Muhammad Ali. I'm going to pop on after this. There's a live stream of my kids' hockey games. So I'm going to throw that up. You get some work done, go check on the guys, make sure the site's clean. So I'm teeing myself up for a Muhammad Ali day for sure.
I love it. I love it. And so you mentioned the word grace. I struggle with that word. I love the word. Trying to define that word. How would you define that word grace?
I think it's subjective to the situation for sure. It can be defined in different ways. That doesn't look like grace to me, right? He's standing over him and he's taunting him, right? That's not grace. Grace isn't always in victory either. Grace is that guy's having a bad day. Let me go make sure that he's good and taken care of and he's in a good headspace, and let me do it subtly. Let me not impose myself on him and say, hey, there's a problem. I need to go fix it. It's just a check-in, right? Do it gracefully. Don't do it with an imposition to change him in some way, shape, or form. Just make sure he knows you're there, right? So things like that. We hit a milestone out here and everybody's, happy and you're getting all these pats on the back and, they're really pumping you up. Take a deep breath, all right? You're not the best thing since sliced bread. Take a deep breath, accept the accolades, say thank you, be quiet, and move on to the next step. That's grace.
Yeah.
So
I think
there's many different definitions.
Yeah. Unearned favor, right? I don't deserve anything, but yet I'm receiving something. Yeah. It's a powerful word to not let the highs be too high or the lows be too low, but you're feeding off all of it. And yeah, just
I
kind of the,
liken it to a bird's flight. It's got to be graceful, right?
yeah,
There's ebbs and there's flows, and they have to react to the wind currents and
yeah,
yeah. An
interesting.
owl, they're quiet, but they don't look very graceful when they're going from point to, or a turkey. You ever seen a turkey fly?
I have
That's not
not.
graceful.
No, I have
Not
not.
graceful.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I want to flip the script real quick. And I feel so confident in this next kind of this little segment where we're heading right now because we've been talking a lot, right? So we've been kind of socializing and socio, and I keep dropping the socio technical side of the business. And so a lot of podcasts are socio, but I want to flip this to the technical side real fast because I enjoy that's one of the things I love the most about you is that, man, we can kick it like just straight technical, whether we're talking electrical, mechanical, sprinkler, framing, drywall, floor, like you get it. And so take us through where you're at on your levels on the building right now that you're specifically. I know you're driving the project, but what's going on from a technical standpoint in your areas?
Well, we're kind of all over the place, kind of in different sections of the process all over the place. So it's a good spot to be in because we're really busy. And I actually have to break out into smaller groups to be effective in our kind of weekly work plan strategy. So we really separate it into exterior, MEP, and finishes. And the MEPs kind of flow into the finishes a little bit as well because they have some work in there. So right now, we are putting the finishing touches on the first part of our what we call our first turn. This building's separated into 3 turns. So we're turning half of one building and then all the amenities. And then we're turning the second half of that building and the amenities for the next. And then the last one, we're all done turning over the entire second building. So I have an array of rough MEPs in one building, which is in various stages throughout the 8-story building. And then we have finishes wrapping up in the other building, and we're going after life safety inspections. We got the fire department here. I invite him out here weekly just so I don't have any surprises when it comes time to, pull the fire alarm, make sure everything works. And then on the exterior of the building, we're wrapping up the envelope on the first tower, kind of punch list stage. I'm in hardscape. Out front, we just poured some footings for some precast stairs and planters on Friday, yesterday. Came out great. And then we got some precast going on the building on the front. That actually wrapped up yesterday as well. Looks beautiful. We got landscapers on the site, which always makes me excited. That means there is light at the end of the tunnel when you get those guys engaged. So I got landscapers and final cleaners. That's how you know you're about to take a deep sigh of relief within a month or so. So
Nice. You know what I love the most about that is now we're talking about the environment again, right? Hey, you're building an environment and then you clean that environment and then you're planting things to give life to that environment before you introduce other lives. It's yeah, what a special time, man. So when's your first I'm assuming TCO, like you
yeah,
achieving a TCO date. What's the date?
that would be 11:15.
Nice.
So
Just in time for Thanksgiving, huh?
exactly. Yep.
Heck
So
yeah,
I'm about to take a quick vacation with you down to LCI
that's
right
right.
in the heat of things. So I've got to make sure that all my ducks are in a row before I hop in a plane. But like I said before, I've been lucky enough to be surrounded by a great team here. So I'm excited for them to have the opportunity to kind of take it and go.
Yeah, heck yeah. And by the time folks listen to this, we'll probably have had been done with LCI. This is actually going to come out just after LCI Congress. So here we are ahead of time preparing, and Jeff's taking some time out of his schedule, right? 3 weeks before final completion to go and learn with folks for a week, hang with the old dogs. We got Airbnb. We're doing it big time. Basketball court, spa. Like we're going all out, walking distance to the hotel conference center. And so, what do you say to those folks who are like, man, Jeff, I'm just too busy. I got this project and my substantial completion is supposed to be in June of 2026. And I just, man, leaving in October, the last final part, we're just starting finishes. I don't know if I can make it happen. What do you tell that person, Jeff?
It's easy to say find the time and make the time, but I think make the time, physically make the time is important. And I struggle with this. I also lead another group that I'm trying to get a lot of interaction on. And I got walks, I got this, I got that. It's just, well, what do you think I'm doing out here? Right. We're all busy. And that's one of my pet peeves. Sorry, I was busy. Oh, okay. I wasn't. I've just been sitting here waiting on you. I got nothing else to do. Right. So that drives me crazy when I hear that.
Respect thing.
Yeah, big time. So right now in my career, I think there is nothing more important than finding a way to make it better, regardless of where I am on my project schedule. And by learning how to make it better, the job is always going to get better. So I think that it's not even, you can't look at it as taking selfish time away. I'm taking time away to learn, become better, and improve the industry and improve my job. Because like I said, I try to use all of these tools and everything I learned right here in my laboratory every day.
Yeah. And that's how you can have proof of concept. That's how you know that you're making an effect on the industry. It's not feedback, right? You're not going and coaching a team or consulting a project and then getting feedback, right? It's concurrent controlled system. I do this and recognize, oh, that didn't work. I probably shouldn't do that again. Or, yeah, that worked. Let's do a little bit more of that. And it sounds so simple, but it's really not. Yeah. So this question's been on my mind this whole time. And what connections, what can you draw from the family connections to this, like creating relationships on job sites, the togetherness, it keeps ringing strong in my head. Like, how much of that was important to you? What do you draw on it? Am I making sense here?
Yeah. So let me take a stab at it. I think that the easiest way to make a connection with another individual is to ask them, "Hey, what's going on at home? How many kids you got? You got a wife? You got?" And some people might clam up and right away, and all right, fine, I'm not going there. That's You don't want to talk about it, but I would say majority of the time you're going to get something back. And I find out that the drywall foreman, he's got two kids at home. His youngest plays soccer. His oldest tried soccer, not into it, is now into playing the violin. And I found all of this out and I remembered it. I found out a year and a half ago, right? And now, if I have nothing else to talk to him about on the job, I can just talk to him about his family. And that connection, that first connection that you make with these people, having that family background and family knowledge and all that to draw back on and kind of pick at and say, oh, well, I'm doing this. Oh, here's where I can draw a parallel to this guy. I think that's a great icebreaker for these interpersonal relationships that you're trying to build from day one on the job. So I don't know if that's where you're going with that, but that's the way that I try to make my connections out here is through family first.
Yes. And how much easier are those questions, conversations? How much easier is it to initiate that when you come or have so much pride in that family that's come before you?
Right. Well, I can only answer from one perspective there.
Ah,
Right. So I don't know. Like I said, I am lucky enough to be in the position I'm in with my family and having the life that I've had. So, but I'm not ashamed of that. All right. Again, I'm not going to impose that on anybody, but I am going to try to make a connection through family first.
yeah, I like that. It drives trust almost immediately. So, what other things do you do on your project to establish trust?
One of the things that we all talk about in the lean world is this respect for people. And that's just a phrase, right? To really do that, you have to define that. What does respect for people look like on your job? All right. So we started with visual management, signage that says respect for people or respect the job. And then we went to the next level. We put them in the urinals, in the porta johns, I should say. And, it's respect this bathroom, respect your fellow workers. Everybody uses this, right? Keep it clean. Don't mess the toilet, all that, right? Simple stuff. And it worked. I joke with another super friend of mine about 14 months into this job, there was not one piece of graffiti on the inside of these toilets. And he's like, holy smokes, man, what are you doing out there? I was like, it's just signage. And it's not. I was like, I just put signs up and that's what happened. But it's really having the conversations that we were talking about, making a connection, not just to the foreman, but in passing, saying hello to everybody, getting some knuckles from the laborer for the drywaller, saying hello and having that same conversation with the number two from the electricians. You have to be visible. You can't be an office dweller as a field guy. You got to be out there. You got to be visible. You got to be walking the spaces. A break room. It's a simple thing. The amount of compliments, and we do a plus delta I'll get into with these guys, but it's always a comment. Wow, you guys have a space for us to sit down and eat. And it's just such a simple thing. It doesn't take a lot of effort or money from us to provide that. And it goes such a long way with these guys for morale on the site. Throw some heat in there, throw a couple fans in there in the summertime. Just make it a good place to sit down and eat and talk with your coworkers. So we start with that. And then we really, like I said, we really put an emphasis on respect for the site. Keep it clean, keep it safe. You know, there's a no rat rule where I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus for reaching out to me directly because they saw somebody else doing something, or they saw somebody eating food in the building in a finished unit that we're not supposed to be eating in, or, you know, there was two guys, one guy was holding the other by his belt while he leaned over the edge. Just take a picture, snap it to me, send it to me. And I'm not going to say who it was. And I'm probably not even going to go yell at those guys. I'm going to go bring them in and train them, you know? So that goes a long way as well. Don't go yell at the guy that was cutting with no glasses. I keep an extra set of glasses on me and I'll just put my hand on his shoulder, and it gets a little awkward with some of these guys. Yeah. I put my hand on his shoulders and I'm like, man, you have beautiful eyes. I would love to see you go home with both of those eyes at the end of the day today. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to kick you off the job. I'm going to give you these glasses. Okay. Put them on, do the right thing. All right. Take care of yourself. I care about
Has anyone ever called HR on you before?
Not yet. My PM waiting for that day.
That's awesome.
I can't spell HR.
Yeah. Well, we talk in
go
our
ahead.
classes about how HR should not be like a hire only and terminate only, right? Like it is such an important function of the business that I think HR folks get a bad rap sometimes, but I mean, they are responsible for the social side of this thing. So,
Yeah.
and many times they don't have a seat at the C-suite table either, which is just, I don't understand that side of it. Like the person bringing the people into the organization should absolutely be sitting front and center, head of the table, probably driving most of the conversation. So I love the no rat rule, the visuals that I hear you just saying, look, I'm just a genuine, authentic human being when I walk the project sites.
It's a golden rule, man.
Unless you're
Platinum
weird.
rule.
Yeah. And then we enforce the platinum rule. Only if you're into weird things, though. That's right. But
Another thing that we do out here, and this is probably the most effective for Kaizen, is we do an accountability chart out here. So every week, every company gets a score, and we rate them on things like safety and cleanliness. And we use software where you have to respond to observations. So your observation response time, that's kind of our quality control metric. You know, the support from your office, because we want your office to be accountable as well in the scoring system. And so we tally it up, and then at the end of the month, there's a winner, and that winner gets lunch on us. And so actually yesterday we awarded our drywallers and bring them in, and it's great because we bring them into our conference room and I sit them down. I got a big whiteboard. Well, I have tons of whiteboards, as you can see, they're up everywhere. And I put a plus delta up and I explain what a plus delta is, even if they're a second time, third time winner, if they have new people. I put a plus delta up there and I'm like, look, I appreciate the compliments. Makes me warm and fuzzy. Thanks. I like that you like that we have a break room. I like that you like that we have clean restrooms. But I already know that. You don't have to tell me that. I need to grow we need to grow. So give me some deltas. And I explain the deltas and I explain how minimal it could be and how big of a change it could be. And that's where we get some unreal feedback from these folks. And that goes such a long way for us. Takes the blinders off of us, puts us in the seat of Joe laborer or, Joe electrician or whoever it is. And the guy that's out in the field all day, not coming back to this office and grabbing a coffee and getting some paperwork done, but somebody that's working with a tool belt all day. That perspective is invaluable to the job and how we can make it better. So that's the most effective tool, I would say, that we have out here. Most effective Kaizen tool.
Yeah. Especially when that lunch reward is that 4 pizza by Schmitty up there, man. Amen, brother.
Yesterday was burritos. It was great.
Oh, that sounds good too. Yeah, what an idea. Like to be able to lay out, look, these are the things we're looking for. These are our expectations. And when you are able to perform at a level that meets or exceeds our expectations, you're going to be rewarded with something even as small as a lunch, but more importantly, like my time, my ear, my presence with you almost, right? As a leader, and humbly, of course, like not standing over Sonny listening, but being there with. And I think that's a huge thing to share a meal, to get some feedback, very important. I will warn you, like I've always gravitated towards the deltas until Jennifer and Jesse got their hands on me and sunk their teeth in. And they're like, yeah, Hoots, deltas are great. And the lean world, I think, lives in the delta mindset a lot. However, those pluses are equally if not more important than the deltas, because one, they reinforce that positive mindset with those people, but also it tells you, hey, you should do more of this, right? So maybe it's your break room. Well, what can you do more to that break room?
Last month was our plumbers that won. And we did get a plus that almost brought a tear to my eye. This individual has no lean training whatsoever. And he raised his hand. I'm like, yes, you, sir. There's really good flow to the job out here. He said that, and I was like,
Yeah. What did he mean? Did he explain it for him?
He just meant that his work, from his perspective, he knew what he was going to do the next day, and he could walk to that space the day before and see that it was ready for him. It was that simple. It was beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's incredible. You should take pride in that. That's a big deal right there, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, that felt good.
Heck yeah. It should. Yeah. In Germany, I just learned this not too long ago. Shout out Christoph from Scout Motors. He taught me this. He said in German, we have a saying, and it's something you'll probably struggle with just as much as I do. But he says, do good things and talk about them. And so that second piece of that is really kind of hard, I think, for a true, humble, hungry, lean leader, focused lean leader. But it's important, right? It is important to speak about the good things that we're doing and focusing on those pluses. So yeah, I absolutely love the reward the trades. They're the people adding true value add to the projects and not the incidental waste or waste pieces. So I love it, man. But we're coming down to the end here, and I want to just give you the screen, and I want you to tell the Lean Builder Nation, like, whatever that message is that you have for us, whatever learning you brought for us, man, the world is yours. You take as long as you need, and just take us out on top, Dr. Reilly.
What I would say to everybody out there is don't stop learning. I mean, that is the more specific part of continuous improvement, Kaizen, whatever you want to say it. Just always be a student, pick up a book, watch some videos, take a look at what other jobs are doing, take a look at what other companies are doing, rip and deploy, try to get better. And if you haven't heard of lean before, jump on board. I mean, it is truly a people first way to get things done. And as long as you prioritize that, the important things that you put behind that, or maybe however you value, the end game here, if you put the people first, everything else will fall into place. So concentrate on people and everything else will follow.
Tonight.